Hello, everybody. Welcome back to another episode of the Loan Officer Wealth Podcast. We are blessed to have Rebecca Richardson on the show today, and you can tell I'm a little bit starstruck, maybe. Can't get my words out. And number 127 on the Scotsman's Guide. So congratulations on that.
Thank you. Thank you. I appreciate that.
And just thrilled to have you on the show. So, for our listeners, can you give us a little bit of your background and just tell us, how you've grown to be where you are today?
Sure. So like most people, I always dreamed of growing up into a loan officer. Just kidding. I fell backwards into it kind of after buying my first house. And when I was in college, I worked for a financial planner and really kind of got bit by the finance bug there. But then where I moved after college wasn't really kind of the same community as say Chapel Hill is. And so I needed a job. So I asked our realtor, I said, "You helped us get a house. Now I need a job." And he said, "You can go over to this mortgage company, maybe you could be a processor or something." So kindly got me a appointment set up, and I showed up, and the owner of the company said, because I said, I don't really know what a processor is, but if you'll tell me what it is, I'll work hard and I'll make you money." And he goes, "So you want a job that is not available and you don't know what you're doing?" And I said, "Yes." Fabulous. And he goes, "Have you thought about being an originator?" "Well, what is that and what do I do?" So it was definitely kind of just a complete on the job training, pre-Safe Act and all of the actually having some CE and PE and stuff like that. And it's just progressed on since then. I'm based out of the Charlotte area. And so I started in Tennessee, reestablished myself in 2007 in Charlotte, went through 2008, and all of that, forged by the fire of 2008 and just learning how to do every loan under the sun because, hey, if we had a buyer, we're going to figure out how to do this loan. And I think I can attribute a lot of my career is just willingness to just do something different, right? Didn't want newsletters going out that everybody had the exact same copy, all those kind of go the path less traveled. And that's led to then experimenting on social media, really then allowing me to diversify my business. I've got a great, group of realtors that I'm very thankful to partner with, but then also being able to go directly to clients through social and kind of talk about meeting them at the point of thought versus the point of sale and having the time to build up kind of that parasocial relationship and build up that community over the course of months and months. And then when they're ready to move forward, I'm there and they've already, they already trust me and we've developed that relationship. So that helped to contribute to getting me to 124 on the broker list.
That is amazing. And I'm very interested in that building a community portion. And I know
Mhm.
you and I are going to dive into some AI conversations and topics, but I'm
Yeah.
very interested and because we get a lot of feedback and we get a lot of questions in our community about what's working right now. It's a very interesting market out there.
Mhm.
And with you having the production numbers that you have, where are you getting your loans from now? What's kind of like the breakdown of where the business comes? Do you have a rough idea what that looks like?
As far as like the percentage of how much from realtors, how much directly, previous clients, it's about a third, a third, a third, meaning,
Nice.
about a third from realtors, about a third from social media, and then about a third, either referred by previous clients or just previous clients coming back. So
Awesome.
that's kind of how the mix stays.
Okay, let's go from boring to exciting. So let's
Okay.
start. Let's start with the database. Then we'll talk about realtor referrals, and then we'll talk about social media, which is
Sure.
the.
Sure.
So, what are you doing for database marketing? Sounds like you've just been always good at database marketing, but kind of walk us through the process of what it looks like.
Sure. Where I'm getting the most leverage as far as kind of any automations, right? Because, no one loves a good email subscription like anything else. It's like no one needs more recipes or whatever. But it is important to whatever we're doing to just stay top of mind, just be in the flow and those kind of things. And honestly, when it comes to consistent outreach to clients that's active, the property report type services have been really valuable for me. So whether it's HomeBot or Home IQ, anything along those lines, because regardless of where somebody is in their home journey, people are nosy. We want to know, they want to know what their neighbor's home sold for, but it's part of our financial picture. And if that's the conversation that we've had with them is, look, we're talking about both sides of your balance sheet, both an asset and a liability. It's no different in my mind than kind of getting my quarterly investment statements. I just want to know how my assets doing. I'm not looking to sell, but I just, I like the data. I mean, obviously, data nerd, but even if you're not, it's information that they find valuable. And so it's a sticky piece of marketing. And then I also run meta ads on Facebook and Instagram. I run them for a couple reasons, but one of the biggest ones is just to stay in that circle of influence, with them. And even if maybe they don't follow me, it does allow me to have some visibility and just show up in their feed like, hey, I'm here. Maybe you want to know about HELOCs. Maybe you want to know about debt consolidation refi. Maybe you're thinking of a second home or, whatever. And just, again, be there where it's an idea that's just brewing so I can be part of that conversation.
Yep, that is amazing. And just to clarify for some of our potentially like less savvy advertisers that are listening, so what you're doing is you're using a retargeting audience. So you're uploading your database to Meta, which runs ads on Facebook and Instagram, and then you're just retargeting just your past clients with ads on social.
Exactly. Yeah.
Awesome. And do you find that that's more top of mind and you're getting phone calls and people are saying like, oh, I've seen you on social? Or are you finding you're getting direct engagement from people sending DMs to the business page, actually reaching out through social?
Not as much reaching out through social, at least not really on the Facebook side. I do get DMs on Instagram, but because it's a past client or because I'm somehow, in their world, they already have my contact information. But it's kind of that fuzzy ROI for marketing, right? Because I can see the stats that I can get in the advertising platform, but I always know that it's working when then I'll, past clients like, hey, I was just thinking about, maybe I'm running a HELOC ad or something like that. Hey, I was just thinking about maybe possibly doing a HELOC and wanted to ask you a couple questions. And I'm like, I wonder why, and so that way it's more of a, one-to-one interaction versus, and them kind of picking up the phone and calling and asking about it.
That's amazing. And that's so interesting on our side of things because we have a brand new AI bot, let's call it. But basically what we've done is we've gone to our community inside the AI inner circle and we've asked like, what are the questions that you get asked over and over about mortgages? And we've plugged them in and then written out all of the answers using either ChatGPT or our own, mortgage team and experts.
Yeah.
And then we're powering an AI bot that goes out on social. So people can actually like have a conversation with it on social media where it's just like always on, always there to answer your questions. But we're running like body type ads like, hey, try and, beat Stumpy the mortgage bot. Like, do you have a question that you can stump me with? So it's like, it's that type of stuff that allows you to do, because if you've got the back end setup of like, I can run anything that I want on social and make sure that my past clients see it, it opens up this other pathway of thinking of just like, hey, I have this other communication method that I can use other than email and text to go to the past customers. So that's great.
Right. Because you're just in their world, versus it kind of feels like communication. And one of the things that I love too is you don't have to spend a lot on it. If I'm only doing about $1 a day for an ad, I'm still showing up, not even just on Facebook or Instagram, but it also shows up where Meta places ads. So I've had, neighbors or clients screenshot news articles and be like, oh my gosh, I saw you in the Washington Post, or I saw you on Fox News. And they think I'm a straight baller. Right. And I'm like, I don't spend that kind of budget because it's not what you make, it's what you keep. But I appreciate that you think so,
Well, if you can do it for $1, I think you're a baller. That's amazing. Phone calls. Are you leveraging phone calls to the database?
I'm not. Just to be straight up and honest, I feel like I'm at the dentist and saying, no, I don't floss every day, but I do have all intentions. But I do think that that's great. I mean, I think for people that do it, that is just taking it up an extra notch. It's creating time in the schedule in order to be able to do that. And right now, I just don't have that time. But I think that is absolutely effective and great service.
Yeah, and we leverage a power dialer for that inside the software, and we've got a concierge that makes those calls. But that's a different discussion for a different day. Okay, pathway number 2, realtors. Let's open it up into referral partners. So, are you finding that the majority of the referrals are realtors, or are you tapping into financial planners, investment advisors? What does the breakdown look like?
Primarily realtors, and then some family law attorneys, because separation and divorce divorce is something I specialize in. So, they know that I know where they're coming from and where, they're, really kind of the quarterback calling all the plays, but then to really kind of get into the specialty teams and some of the, specific things that we run into once it's all inked and dried and everyone's like, I can finally move forward with my life, and we get to be the bubble popper that says, no, I'm sorry, you have to wait 6 months, or whatever the case is.
Right.
So from that standpoint, a lot of it's, really realtors. And um, my strategy for my realtor partners is it's simple, but it's not as systematic. And I'm very much a systems, data, all that kind of person. Like if I can put it on a game plan and have a mind map for it or a workflow, like I am happy. And that's what's helped me probably scale the most, and just to be efficient. But I really feel like when it comes to realtor partners, there's not in my mind really a way to do that effectively at scale when it is um, if you're just kind of putting them on, kind of a plan, right? I
Mhm.
would rather with my realtors, I really rather to have genuine relationships. So
Mhm.
it's strategic, but it's not strategic because it's really more of a relationship and a partnership.
Yep.
So it's, I know what you're up to. I know, man, it looks like you had an awesome time in the mountains this weekend. And that's just because we were genuinely friends, not
Mhm.
because I'm like, well, let me go scroll their Facebook before like I give them a call so they think that I care. I want them to know that I genuinely care.
Yeah.
So my realtor pool is smaller, but I would say that it's a lot more enjoyable for me because there are genuine relationships there versus it feeling like a transaction, or that I'm there's kind of that subtext or sort of commission breath of they know why I'm calling because I'm just trying to squeeze them for a referral.
Yeah. So, you just touched on something that I love so much that I think gets overlooked in so much of the like 19, well, I won't date it, but like boiler room type sales to going out and getting realtor relationships, because
Sure.
we all fall into like, hey, it's math and it's numbers. And I'm probably
Right.
the most guilty of that because I'm a math and numbers guy.
Yeah. Yeah.
But I think there's so many people looking at today's marketplace and going, you know, A, everybody's calling, so I don't want to call. Or B, I'm just not going to work with realtors because I don't feel like those are my people. Like I don't want to be bothered by realtors.
Mm-hmm.
And I believe that all you're really doing with your outreach is you're filtering the people that you want to work with so that you can actually get to the point that you're at, which is
Right.
I have relationships with awesome people. It's great. We like the same things. We're aligned. And oh, by the way, we send clients back and forth to each other.
Yeah, exactly. I don't think this is any secret, but you think in like loan officer groups or chats or whatever, people will be like, I hate work, or loan officers say, I hate working with realtors and blah, 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 blah. And I don't want to go do these open houses. And then you see them on social and they're like, here's my good buddy, and it's like, you don't like doing that. So to me, a lot of it is almost kind of the same as people that complain about their social media feed. You control what comes in. So if you don't like it, you need to change it. And it's the same with working with any kind of referral partners, particularly we're talking about realtors. Find the realtors that you respect, find the realtors that treat their business the way that you treat your business, and find alignment versus trying to just like churn through as many as possible and kiss as many frogs as possible. It's like find your real match, and then it's a lot better for everybody. And in the end, is what our goal is it's what's best for the client,
That's
because
right.
we're really going to be able to work together as a team versus kind of being two mercenaries trying to make sure that we both get paid.
Yeah. Yeah, I could not agree more. And so in alignment and making sure that you're working with the right partners, I'd like to back up just a moment to divorce attorneys.
Mhm.
And so that is a very interesting niche that I'm seeing some people being just like wildly profitable in and having some great relationships. And I'm wondering if you had a specific intent to go into that market and you targeted specific people, or was it like you did a couple of those deals, you did a good job, you got referred? Like, how did you end up having that as a dedicated niche within your mortgage business?
Well, I'll tell you what I tell clients when they tell me that they're going through a separation or their divorce. I say, been there, done that. Have the therapy and the attorney bills, and this is what brings us here today. But honestly, I think most loan officers who truly love this business, I feel like most of those loan officers have some niche that other people think is messy, right? It might be non-QM, it might be condos, it might be government, it might be, anything along those lines, self-employment. And it's just something that they're like, hey, I get it. Like, it's not your gig, but it's mine, and my brain works this way. And it's nice to kind of find those little pockets where it's not straight across the plate, 20%, 720 credit score conventional, right?
Yeah.
Because it gives we are so much of a commodity, and there's still, even with the attrition from this year, there's still a lot of us, and you have to do something that says, this is something that I uniquely excel at, and a problem that I can solve for you well. And I think, again, for me, the reason I like it is I just altruistically, I really enjoy people having, just advising people so they can get that stability with their next housing move. Sometimes that looks like buying their first home. That's the stability of, we have a place. Sometimes that looks like, hey, I just went through kind of a really crappy situation, getting divorced, but being able to bring that peace of mind that now this place is mine and I can start to move forward. Selfishly, that's rewarding to me.
Oh
But I
yeah.
like to be able to kind of those are one of the messes that I like to be able to go into and say, I can untangle this for you and I can make this good. I love mess. I love, it's like solving a Rubik's cube, and presenting them with that solution and seeing it working is really fun.
That is amazing. And so it appears to me, and correct me if I'm wrong, that you're a very purpose-based individual. It seems like everything that you do with your database marketing and your referral
Mhm.
partner marketing is all very intention-based of who you work with, who you surround yourself with. Has that come through in like it's just naturally come in the business, or did you set out with the intention of here's the box that I want to build and I'm going to go out and build my mortgage business like this?
Um, I would say it's how my brain is wired. And just that I naturally kind of gravitate towards systems and things like that because it helps me be more efficient. And obviously systems help you be more efficient, but it also means that there's less like taxing on my brain to make that next decision of what needs to happen, and
Mhm.
have then more freedom for creativity and thinking of the next thing. But I'll tell you honestly, a lot of it's because being a mom, because for my kids are older now. I've got a freshman in high school and a freshman in college. But when I was rebuilding my business, moving, back to Charlotte in 2007, I had a 2-year old and then had my son the next year. So I have a finite amount of time during the day that I can work, right? And I love being a mom, but I also love my work. And so it's kind of like, you've heard the thing, I'm sure, be where your feet are, right? When I'm at home, I want to be at home. When I'm at work, I'm at work. But I have to make that time count, because there's no like, oh, I'll just kind of like float into the evening or float on to a, networking thing. It's like, leave at 5, got to be there by 5:25 to pick them up, to then, so it's just made me kind of regimented, and got to squeeze as much as possible into that time. And how I do that is being very purposeful.
That is amazing. Well, I think that's the perfect segue into social media, because if you're not
Okay.
purposeful on social
Yeah.
media and what you're doing with your time, that can be a massive time suck that has no money at the end of it, which is where I think a
Right.
lot of loan officers are
Right.
with their journey on social media. So, talk to me about your social media and what your plan is and how you're intentional with that.
Sure. Well, kind of coming back to, finite amount of time, really before even getting, kind of what people tend to know me for is video on, TikTok and Instagram, and things like that. But when I had moved back to Charlotte again, I got involved on a mom's message board, because I was just trying to figure out daycares, and oh my gosh, what do I do with a 18-month-old that's a tiny terrorist, and all these kind of things. And how you kind of have in your signature at the time, who you are and what you're about or whatever. And naturally that started to grow into business in that community, because they're women. A lot of women tend to be CFOs of their family, whether they work
Hmm.
outside the home or not. And it started to be a pretty good chunk of business for me, because again, and this always surprises people, I am an introvert. So, I don't jump at the chance to go to the after work mixer or stuff like that. But social media, whatever form it is, whether it's a message board or whether it's, kind of what people traditionally think of with, the platforms, Facebook and all that, it allows me an opportunity to socialize and to connect in a very genuine way, but I can do so while I'm, cozied up under a weighted blanket.
Yeah.
So it's kind of from that standpoint. And then I really started to integrate video into my business. You know, as our industry has evolved and become more techy and don't have to sit down, one to one anymore, and we miss that actual connection, right? There's just something different about looking at somebody and connecting that way versus over the phone or certainly over email or text. And my emails that were giving people instructions of how they could sign their disclosures or what the next steps were getting quite long and wordy. And not everybody wants to read a novel. They're just like, just the facts, ma'am, and moving on. So I
Hmm.
started shortening that and having kind of some evergreen videos because I wanted at least them to understand, I'm a real person. I'm here. I'm working for you, and be able to see, the gestures and the tone and intonation and all that kind of stuff. And then getting comfortable with camera from that standpoint, where it's very fixed and very, like controllable, right? Never a Facebook Live. I started to, I was using video, but I was doing it all horizontal, like with the camera at my desk or my webcam or whatever. And I had heard Gary Vee say that, all businesses should be on TikTok. And then someone else saying that TikTok had a great vertical editing,
Yep.
software. It's easy, right? Because I am a techie person, but I think my first reaction is always like, nah, I don't want to do that. Like, I don't want to sit at a computer and spend time editing. And so I had my daughter show me what TikTok was all about and started just shooting video basically for my own um, laughs, essentially, and then editing, some business videos and kind of figuring out, like what is short form video and what is my style and whatnot. Again, just thinking that I'd place it on other platforms. And because of the time, which was fall, kind of around this time of year, kind of late 2019, there weren't any captions on TikTok. So
Yep.
you had to watch it with the volume on. And, as humans, we're not really meant to stare into someone's eyes repeatedly and not feel some kind of bond, right? That's where the parasocial relationship comes in. And for example, why we even care what Taylor Swift and, Jason Kelsey are doing and all that kind of stuff, Travis Kelsey. And, and as a result, people would respond. So the engagement was better on TikTok and people would ask questions. Yes, on a quote unquote dancing app at the time, but people would ask questions, and that gave me more, more material to respond to or more content I could create. And it turns into kind of this feedback loop and this ongoing, almost like sociological study, which I love because it's just you get direct feedback on what people care about and what's on their mind. And to your point, as far as, kind of loan officers not having luck on social, one of the biggest mistakes that I see people doing on social is they're talking about what they care about
Yeah.
or what kind of fans their flames or boosts their ego. And it's like, that's not what it's about. It's what is your ideal client? What do they need to hear? What problem do they need to solve? What questions do they have? And I might care all day long and think that, like, isn't it so cool all the different ways that you can do MI, and it's like leverage and it's not a 4-letter word, and people are like, I really don't care. I want to understand, how closing costs work, or what. And so by just really getting tuned into what people want to know, it creates great content because you're literally meeting them where they're at versus expecting them to kind of like come into our lingo and and our little microcosm of finance.
Yep. No, that is so well said. And I think even looking at other content out there that's engaging well and helping to break that down for people. Like, hey, here's this news article that just came out. Here's what
Yep.
this actually means. And here's what this
Yeah.
means here. Like in our
Right.
market, here's this federal announcement. What does that mean
Yeah.
here?
Yeah. Yeah.
So,
I agree. I mean, that's honestly my favorite type of content right now is just let me just make this make sense, right?
yeah.
Because I personally, and that's always my encouragement too, is I'm like, make content that you like to consume, right? Like if I have to sit here and do something that doesn't feel natural, we say the camera adds what, 10, 15 pounds. I think it takes away like 10 to 15% of your personality, if not more.
Huh.
So if you can't even feel like yourself because you're having to like do this, do this type of video, then you're gonna be dry. And we're talking about 30 years of debt. It's already kind of a not exciting topic. So you better at least bring some personality to it so your people can find you and they can know who you are. And so from that standpoint, you just have to experiment. But my favorite right now is because I think that there is a lot of stress. There's anxiety about the market, and people are feeling shut out and angry about it and hurt about it and confused. It's like, let me just make it make sense. Like, no agenda. Let me just help explain this to you, because I certainly love when people do that, that are trustworthy, embedded, and educated on it, and just say, hey, this is what this situation that you're aware of in the news. Let's break this down into a little bit more digestible bites, and then I
Yep.
still feel informed but not overwhelmed.
Yeah. Oh, that's so great. And I mean, so okay, that is incredible. And there's incredible knowledge in there. And the fact that so many people are struggling with like, what do I post on social? Chances are it's
Yeah.
already there for you to
Yeah.
just break down and make easier and digestible
Yeah.
for clients. But
Yeah.
okay, so we make the content, we get
Mhm.
people engaged. How do you get your leads from social media? And then what's your process, or what's it look like in your business, taking it from like, okay, I have a social media conversation into I've taken an application and I'm funding a deal?
Mhm. So as far as as far as how people come from social media, I feel like it's all over the place. I mean, yes, you can use ManyChat and all kinds of things to like have things automated. And again, we love the automations. We love all of that. But a lot of times, because it is personal, right? It's getting into the question of, here's my scenario. I trust you enough to make myself vulnerable to send, this person that I've been following on social for months, question about my finances, right? Like
Yep.
that in and of itself, it's just kind of like, we don't even talk about finances sometimes, within our own families. Um, so really what that is just kind of getting a lay of the land. Do I think that I can help them, or whether that means actually do their loan, or even just, give them some good information to put them on the right path. I really try to get people to doing some kind of intake call. So most of the time it's like, hey, I've got questions. We'll go back and forth maybe a little bit, and then I'll say, either text me, here's my number, here's my Calendly link, look at my bio, depending on whatever platform we're on. And because I really, before we get to applications, before we kind of get to like, kind of putting them in the quote unquote system, I want to connect with them just person to person. I really want to understand what their story is, because the numbers are the numbers and the numbers are easy. But if we don't have the context of the story, then we're going to waste a lot of time going back and forth. And if I don't understand what they need, then I'm probably not going to give them what they want.
Yeah.
And so I try to do that with about we say it's a 15-minute call. Sometimes it goes up, 20 minutes. Sometimes we're totally vibing and it's like 20, 30 minutes, and, we're exchanging Christmas cards. But just to be able to establish that connection, and then let me send you the application, things like that. And even kind of even before that stage, making sure that everything's been captured in my CRM, where people came from, what the notes are. I'm very religious on taking intake call notes. That's something that I integrated. I'm embarrassed to say, only probably about a 2 years ago. I would just kind of like keep it up in my head, and then my loan partner would get an application. She goes, "What about the Smiths?" I'm like, "Yeah, I got nothing for you." I'm like, "It gotta, blame it on the brain." But just making sure that I capture all those little pieces of information to help us paint that picture for them.
That is absolutely amazing. And so, um, when you're putting those notes into your CRM, and this is so okay, so for our listeners, I believe that social and your CRM are a fluid tool.
Sure.
You're once you get that initial like, hey, I'm interested, and you pass contact information along, the follow-up on social is basically non-existent. Like, there really isn't good social media tools on the platforms of like, hey, you had this conversation with somebody, here I'm going to help prompt you to send a follow-up message to that person. So it's our job on social to get them to the point where they're interested. Then we put them into a CRM, and we're trying to take them to another conversation platform. So it's like, hey, text
Right.
me, email me, fill
Right.
out my form on my website, and then we put them into a traditional type thing. So
Right.
um, when you put all that information in, are you then doing your standard like hey, I'm going to put them into a campaign when they're pre-approved, and there's a specific messaging that goes out to those people over time in order to convert them? Or is it still somewhat of a manual process, even though once you've got them in your CRM?
It's still somewhat of a manual process because, I mean, certainly we do have great, campaigns that we can follow up and stuff like that. I think probably sometimes to my detriment, to be honest. I don't like some of the automations because I don't want somebody to, as much as possible, even though we do have systems and scripts and all that kind of stuff, I don't want a client to feel processed.
Yep.
Because if they wanted to do that, they could go a big box, push a button somewhere, right? They're part of their choosing us is that they want that more consultative one-to-one feel. So I do certainly stay in their sphere because then they get added into those meta ads and things like that. So they're seeing me there. And then a great team admin that she helps with some of the proactive communication of just, touching base, right? Because if we're pounding away at them every week, I get it sounds great, but especially in a market like this, it's like, have you found anything you like? And it's like, yeah, I found a lot of things that I liked, and it's $100,000 more expensive than I'm comfortable, paying.
Yep.
So making sure that we're having the right tone and empathy, especially for whatever's going on, in our markets and individually with the client.
Yeah, absolutely. And I couldn't agree more with that. And again, that's where we're using AI. So a lot of AI is in message creation. So not
Hmm.
necessarily like your standard CRM automated processes are static to the messages that get sent out. And what we've done in our CRM is we now have like an AI creation tool that's in it.
Hmm.
So you've got the grouping of people of
Sure.
pre-approvals, let's say,
Right.
but then you've got the AI writing assistant where it's like, what happened in the news today that's relevant to people that have a pre-approval?
Yep. Yep.
You get your message,
Yep.
then your message is sent out, the interaction comes back, and because the AI knows the context of the beginning of the conversation and who the
Yep.
communication is with,
Yep.
it's able to actually have the back and forth conversations with the client via email or via text in order
Yeah.
to just like give that phenomenal customer service,
Yeah.
which opens up. So I have to drop the link in the podcast. So it's loanofficercrm.ai if people want to get more information about that and how that works. But that opens up the conversation of artificial intelligence. And so talk to me about AI. This is like the Wild West frontier. It's going to, in my opinion, change the lending industry forever. So
Yeah.
how are you using AI? What are you doing with it?
So I am using AI primarily for a couple different things. So I've built at this point probably about, I would say, 10 custom GBTs, just to help get some of the stuff that, like, my thought process, right? Because my business partner and I, we really love, connecting with other loan officers that are some of the good guys, right? Like, to me, that's, I think, the power of social media, because you have such exponential, exposure on it and those kind of things. Loan officers who really take this serious, who are purposeful, who aren't just, chasing a commission check and things like that. I want them to win. I want the good guys to win, and to do that, they have to have a larger, louder platform, and doing some of what Nate and I have been able to do with social and getting it out of our brains, right? Because at this point, not exaggerating, I've done at least 1,200 to 1,400, videos over the last couple of years. I mean, it is past muscle memory, and it's the, what, the curse of knowledge, right? Like, how do you do it? It's like, I don't even know how to, like, turn on the record button. Why are you talking to me about jump cuts and,
Yep.
CTAs at the end and those kind of things? So I've used that to kind of help reverse engineer, because my brain kind of thinks like that, right? Like, when I'm giving an instruction that I want the result to be X, or I want the response when the user says this, I want the response to be that. That kind of binary sort of, engineer is the way that my brain works. I just have a really good way of masking all of it. So that has been fun, is to use it really kind of more for the communication aspect of, I want you to write a hook, and then here are the examples of different styles. Here's why. Here are different copywriting, formulas and frameworks and things like that. So that's primarily how we're using it right now. And also to have something similar, kind of that, we call it a communication coach, because sometimes, emails come in and it's like, I know what I want to say, and I think that that's the reason that I like, AI in the way that I'm using it, which I know is just the tip of the iceberg, but is, I know what I want to say, but I can't I'm in that like left brain mode, right? I'm in
Hmm.
problem solving. I'm in bullet points. I'm in, facts and figures and not good calming words and the things that we need to translate all that, kind of static kind of database things. And so it's helpful in that regard too, just to help make it just write better.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's a huge portion of, so again, what we're doing that lines up very similar to that is we've got custom campaigns and each of
Mhm.
them have a prompt that's specific to the campaign. So like this is an outreach campaign to a qualified list of realtors. And here's, you're an MBA educated assistant that is trained on this, and this, and your
Yep.
goals are, and your brand tone is this. But it's like, this one's for our past customers. This one's for our pre-approved and lookings. This one's for our realtors. This one's for, so we basically mapped out with the help of the mortgage marketing animals, their daily success plan,
Mhm.
all the different conversations and like the fundamentals of those, and then trained each marketing campaign inside the CRM to that specific language, to that specific customer. So if it's a realtor
Yeah.
talking to it, it's getting the right conversation. If it's a
Right.
client talking to it, it's getting the right conversation. So having that in a box, you mentioned custom GPTs. One of the things that I'm really interested in is underwriting guidelines. So we have a custom GPT that we're
Yeah.
feeding with guidelines and then trying to stump with deal scenarios. So have you played with it in that regard? What does
Yes.
that look like?
Yes. So I will say, and I don't know what label to put on it, but I like breaking chat GBT, right? Like it's like I feel it feels like okay, like I reached the end, like I got to back up and like find the other like boundary or whatever. And I would say that I think I've done a pretty good job with the other GBTs, but when I have tried to do the scenario ones, because I tried to do like an all-in-one, that didn't work. I tried to do individual agency ones and asking the questions, and they weren't, they weren't to the level of kind of pulling in. I mean, the way that we have to operate as a loan officer, right? It's like, here's the question: can I do this? I am buying a home, that's 30 miles away. The current home. The owner or the buyer currently owns a home with a conventional loan on it, but they're using FHA on the purchase. Can they do this? Right. And it's like the answer that I want it to give is yes, they can do that, but they can't count the rent on the, departing primary or something like that. And you get like, this is possible with FHA. FHA is a program with 3.5% down. It's advisable to consult with a, professional loan officer or realtor about your individual scenario. And I'm like, no, that is not, no, Chet, that is not the right answer. It's like, do what I tell you, read the guidelines. I feel like it's like old school, managers. Like, did you read your guidelines? Did you read your findings?
Yeah, that's
So I
right.
haven't gotten there yet. So if you figured that out, all the praise to you, and I would love to play with it because I have not gotten there yet on that one.
Awesome. Well, we are far from there, and our prompt is pages long at this point, but getting better and better. And for our listeners here, and for you, take this away for whatever it is. But one prompt that we found that was uber successful, like we made a breakthrough with, is um, is ask me the questions that you need in order to get me the response I'm looking for. And
Mhm,
so it's
mhm.
like, don't answer this question yet, but analyze it and then ask me the questions that you need to
Yes.
get to the answer that you want. And
Yes.
it when we added that into it, it rather than us prompting a database, it was almost like it felt like database querying.
Yes.
And as
Yes.
soon as we made that shift with the AI of giving it the prompt of like, don't just try and figure this out one time, think
Yeah.
through the process with us, then it
Yep.
became a dialogue style engine. And that made
Yep.
a huge leap for us. So hopefully that will
I've
help.
done that a little bit. Like when I feel like I kind of hit one of those boundaries is how like what can I answer for you, or how can I help you provide the result that I'm looking for? And it's like, well, you can't, and it's like, it's like, well, thanks for being on the same team as me. Oh, you're welcome. Can you give me my answer, please? So yeah, so it's what I do in my spare time. I realize as I'm saying that out loud, that makes it sound like I'm really fun at parties, but I promise I am fun at parties. But I like in my spare time just to kind of figure out like how do I essentially, can I build it? Can I get it to produce this result that I want and kind of get it out of my head? And it's been a fun exercise to sort of break down that thought process so it's not so automatic. because when we're telling, loan officers, or we're telling our realtor partners, like, just get on social, and they're like, cool, how? And it's like, "Oh, just push record and record a video." Well, what do you say? And it's like, okay, well, when you stop and think about it, and you think about really quality content construct, or creation, you're really thinking about, it's not just the mechanics of turning on the camera and talking. It's really good copywriting. Well, what is good copywriting, and what is the correct framework for what this topic is? So not only do I have to be an expert on the actual technical aspects of what I'm talking about, but I've got to make it sound good. I've got to understand, what, not just what a hook is, but what a catch is, and jump cuts. And it's like, no wonder people don't do it. And so whatever I can do, again, to kind of break that down into all these little different steps, so it can become muscle memory, it can help, more of the good guys win. That's fun for me.
That's awesome. Well, Rebecca, that is a fantastic segue to how do people find out more about you, or how do
Mhm.
people find you on social?
Perfect. Well, on social, I'm everywhere as the mortgage mentor. So a lot of it is the.mortgage.mentor. But if you look the mortgage mentor, I should be there. So I'm on whatever your favorite sandboxes are. I'm in all of them. I'm even on Threads. I'm having a lot of fun with Threads, and kind of exploring that, like, creative writing, side of my brain. So it's not all, facts and figures. But you're welcome to DM me, connect with me there. Our team website is the Lender Avengers. So that's actually our team site, and you're welcome to find us there as well.
That is awesome. Well, Rebecca, thank you for being so generous with your time
My
and your
pleasure.
knowledge here today, and thank you for being here. And for all of our
Thank you.
listeners, thank you so much for listening, and we will see you on the next episode.